Are you sure?
Yes.
You got it backwards. This one's got the 4.7.
I'd have to look at the schematic. Whatever the schematic shows.
This one's got 4.7. This one's got the.
You're right. Yeah,
0.1.
this is a 2.1. That's the old 4.7.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, because I worked my way from right to left.
Yeah, I can tell.
Do you like that sound better?
Well, this is the guitar sound.
Yeah.
This is bass guitar sound over here.
Oh, well, this is bass. Greetings from Terry here, D-Lab. On the bench today, I have a Fender Bassman blackface in the blonde cabinet with some noise issues. I understand it's been to quite a few shops. Works good for a while. After it heats, it starts getting noisy again. Should be a good challenge. Let's take a look. I got the lights off in the shop. Scope is hooked up to a dummy load on the rear of the amp. Volume control's all the way down, because if we're looking for noise, it'll be there regardless of the volume level. Okay? So we're just going to watch the scope. I'm going to let it warm up. We'll start tapping around and see if we have any sensitivity. So I'm down at 20 millivolts per division. You can see on the scope, she's dancing around. Now some noise, of course, is expected, but it appears as though there's some sensitivity. You can see it's in the middle of the amp, goes down on either side of the center. Okay, so I would suspect possible ground issues. Okay, how about the tubes? Oh, look at there. Look at that preamp tube. She's very noisy and sensitive. Okay, going across the way here, hitting all the other tubes. There's the output tubes. Not much going on there, but a lot going on here. Okay, so I'm not going to just slap in a tube and call it good. Let's get it open, inspect the board, make sure that there's not other things causing the noise, and then of course we'll probably be changing this preamp tube. Alright, let's get it open. Give it a look over top side. Transformers all look original. It's got Electro Harmonix 6L6s installed. These three are JJs, and the sensitive one is an old stock RCA. I'm going to take a magnifying glass, take a peek in these sockets, see if the pins are damaged or if somebody's tried to reform them, which I see a lot. I want to take a quick look here, see what we got underneath the cap cover. Make sure it's been replaced, hopefully. Yep, look at there. Some beautiful sprays. So we're in good shape on the filter caps. Alright, get these output tubes out of the way. We'll flip her upside down and look bottom side. So inspecting the first preamp tube here, there is some evidence that somebody's kind of reformed the contacts, maybe even polished them a little bit. But the tube socket pins themselves look good. So let's get it flipped upside down. Alright, here's an underside sweep of the Fender Bassman. You can see she looks pretty good, but it does have some problems that I want to point out. Number one, the negative bias cap was not changed when they changed all the main filter caps on top of the amp. And that's a real problem, because if this cap fails, you lose negative voltage to your output tubes and they'll go warp drive and smoke. Looks also like somebody changed the 100 ohm resistors here, the little filament balancing resistors. Okay, if we go this way, we'll see some really crazy looking grid caps going to the output tubes. I don't even know who makes these things. GE's, those have got to go. They're old, they'll leak, and also damage your output tubes. You can also see it's got all those red ugly caps in there, all the tone caps. These things are notorious for failures where the leads come into the caps. those break loose and they'll cause all kinds of noise. We'll see if that may be generating what we're seeing. Also notice some evidence of past work. You can see this wiring here with some lovely solder jobs. Going over here, somebody's been playing around on the eyelet board. The grounds here have been changed. That's not original. So it looks like I'll be touching up some connections, changing out some caps on the eyelet board, etc. But first, we're going to put this thing back on the scope and see where the sensitivity is. So I have a few other items I want to point out real quick. This 470 ohm resistor. This is in your screen circuit. Goes over here. You can see the lead shooting through the terminal with the tube socket, and there's a big blob of solder on the back. It does not appear as though it's soldered very well at all. And then there's been some grounding work going on in here. They got these red runners going over to pin 8 of the output tubes. I'm not sure what's going on there, but what I'll end up doing is putting current shunts in their place. Other than that, there's some crummy connections to take care of, but somebody has been in here resoldering a lot of these connections. Chasing noise. Let's see if I can figure out what it is. Here we go. I got the chassis pulled. It's up on blocks. We know that that first 12AX7 was already very microphonic, so I replaced it with a Savtech 12AX7 LPS, which is what I use on all these amps. All right. Volume's all the way down. We're back on. We're going to look at that noise level. Now before, remember, I could touch this tube and she'd go nuts. Now look at it. It's better. Much better. So that was a contributor. But somewhere in the center, there is some sensitivity. See a lot of sensitivity. I'm just barely touching this eyelet board. So if you just go along here, see that cap? That's one of those disc caps. They're kind of like a microphone. See there? Major contributor. A lot of sensitivity here. There's that ground. Remember the ground I told you that somebody been in there playing with? It's obviously the main contributor right in the center of the amp. Right where I was tapping. Well, we're going to fix that before we go any further. Alright, so inspecting this eyelet board, I'm seeing numerous bad connections. Some of the capacitors have melt marks. There's leads that go down to the eyelets and you can see the rosin joint around them. There's just way too many issues, and I really don't want to spend the time to narrow it down to that one bad connection, right? We know we got a lot of problems. Now the owner sent me this little blackface mod kit with the updates on the schematic that came from an outside source. So I'm going to go ahead and install that kit. I'm going to change out all the caps that I suspect that are bad, and then we'll fire it back up and see what that noise is doing. So let's start on this side of the amp. I'm going to clean up the output tube section, get these little ground runners out of here, remove these old 470 ohm resistors, get everything secure. I'm going to install current shunts from pin 8 to ground so we can measure the bias through these tubes and change out that negative bias cap. Okay? So let's just get this old stuff out of the way. I'll clean up the tube socket connections. That one's a little tight. There we go. Like I said, it was just pushed through there. Alright, get some solder wick, open those up, get the resistors in, get these grounds taken care of. Alright, making progress. The new negative bias caps installed. There's our new screen resistors. Current shunts are installed. Death cap removed. Time to move over to the eyelet board. Well, there's new coupling caps to the grids of the output tubes. Next, I'm going to move this way and do the inverter circuit updates. These two resistors and several others need to be changed, as you can see here in the diagram. Nice to have documentation. Alright, so I have the inverter circuit updates completed. Now I'm going to move over and change out these other coupling caps and get rid of these disc caps. And then we'll probably be real close to firing it up. Well, there are the fallen soldiers. I have everything replaced on the eyelet board, ready for the initial test. So I got my dummy load hooked up. The scope is connected like we were to begin with. Let's take a look at the noise level and then I'll put a signal into it. Here we go, lights out. Just going to tap around on the board like I always do. So there's standby on. Bring up the volume. You can see that we have activity on the channels, but with the volume all the way down, she should be pretty quiet. This is the middle of the board where I had the most noise issues, but that appears to be solid now. It looks good. I'm at 50 millivolt per division. She's running good and clean. Let's get a signal into it. Alright, we'll check the instrument channel first. And I have an audio generator hooked up. Bring her up. There's your output. I'm at 5 volts per division there. Looks clean as a whistle. Let's go over to the other channel, which is the normal channel. Beautiful sine wave. So next step, you need to get a guitar on it, see what it sounds like. But I think that this Bassman is getting really close. So I'm pretty confident that the amplifier itself is fixed. The other thing that the owner wants me to install is a master volume control. And we're going to put it in the place of that accessory AC socket. After we do that, we'll give this thing a test run with a real guitar. So to put the master volume mod in this Bassman, I'm going to remove the AC socket. I'm going to install an aluminum plate and wire in the dual 250K pot, which will stick out the back with the control. Then the AC lines here that used to go to the outlet will go over here to this added terminal strip. And you can follow the exact instructions how to wire the master volume off of triodeelectronics.com's website. I've already shown this mod, so I'm not going to go through this step by step. I'm going to get it installed. Well, there's the new master volume pot ready to be wired up in the place of the old AC outlet. Completely reversible. Alright, mission complete. Master volume is installed. There's the new knob. I'll tag it, of course. Pot's wired in. The blue line is the negative voltage coming off of our negative bias supply. And here are the two taps that go through the pot and to the grids of the output tubes. So the last thing you want to do after putting in a master volume pot is just flip this thing on and think you're going to run. Okay? Turn on just the power, not the standby, so there's no high voltage applied. Get in here and make sure that that negative voltage is there and it is actually going to the grids of each of the output tubes. Because if it's not, and you wired that incorrectly, you're going to smoke your output tubes. Alright, here we go. Initial test with the master volume installed. I'm in the normal channel, using the scope into a dummy load like I always do. High voltage is on. My master is up all the way, so you can see our output on the scope. Now I'm going to take the output up with the main volume here, turn the master back. You can see that's working well. So if I bring the master way down and crank up on the preamp, now I can get this effect at low wattage, which you could not do in the stock configuration without cranking the thing full blast. So it looks to be working great. Alright guys, Stereo in the lab with Tony Kuzmano. Been a long time since you've seen
Been
him.
a long time. How's everybody doing out in D-Lab world?
And that's my fault because I've been working on ham radio equipment and Tony's not a ham operator.
And I've been complaining the whole time. He's finally coming around,
I am. I'm going to back off on the ham radio stuff, guys. It eats up way too much of my time and it pisses off Tony.
Thank you.
So this is the initial test after repair of the Fender Bassman amp. It's got master volume in it. Tony's shaking it down right now. And so far, he's impressed.
It sounds great. This is a real cool amp. This is a, I'd say it's a 68, possibly an early 69 Bassman. Somebody recovered it with the blonde Tolex and they put a black face on it, which is cool. It's not original. But this amp still is in the right time frame to have the good Schumacher transformers. And Terry's updated all the caps and got rid of the chocolate drops and put in good caps and everything. It sounds really nice. It's got that beautiful Fender sound.
Goes well with wine.
Goes along with your wine. Big warm sound. Check out. I dreamt I had a good job and I got well paid. I blew it all at the penny arcade. $100 on a Cupid down. No pretty chick ain't gonna make me crawl. Get on the TWA to the promised land. Everybody clap your hands. Don't you know we love the way that you sing? Don't you know we're riding with the king? Yeah.
Cool, man. You want to give him a little
No,
You
this
know that-
amp sounds great, man.
what about the preamp up and master down deal so
Yeah,
they
we
can
can
hear that?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
So where you got your master at?
Turn it down, right? Okay.
Okay, that's up, isn't it?
This down.
Is it down? Okay. So you want this preamp all the way
Yeah,
up?
if you want it to grind, you can turn the preamp all the way down.
Yeah. That works.
This screams.
All right, man. So we got it.
Yeah, I mean,
Tony's seal of approval.
man, great amp.
Yeah. So you know what? If it goes back to the owner, you don't like it. It's his fault because I can't play and I don't have the ear for it. Right?
If it goes back to the owner and you don't like it, let me know. Maybe I'll buy it for you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.